Welcome back, deep divers. Ready to explore another fascinating chapter of history.
Always up for a good deep dive. What intriguing corner of the past are we uncovering today?
Today, we're stepping back in time, way back to ancient China, where a dynasty ruled for, get this, 6 centuries. The Shang Dynasty.
600 years. Talk about a legacy.
Exactly. And you know what comes with long reigns like that? You got it. Power struggles, palace intrigue. We're talking Game of Thrones level drama, ancient China style.
It's incredible to think how those power dynamics played out in a time so different from our own, and yet, as we'll see, there are some surprising parallels to the modern world.
I'm ready to jump in. 600 years is a long time. Where do we even begin?
Well, you got to start with a little rebellion.
Oh, I knew there had to be some good conflict in here somewhere.
The Shang Dynasty didn't just appear out of nowhere, right? They rose to power by overthrowing the existing Xia dynasty. Their leader, Tang, think of him as the original Shang revolutionary, really flipped the script on how things were run.
Regime change, a whole new dynasty. You'd think they'd be all set for smooth sailing from there, right?
Not so fast. They had the system of succession brother to brother, and that, my friend, proved to be a real thorn in their side.
Okay, now that sounds like a recipe for trouble. Why was that such a problem? It seems like a good system on the surface, keeping it in the family and all that.
It seems like a good idea, sure, until you realize how messy it gets in reality.
Yeah.
Imagine. The king passes the throne to his brother, standard procedure, but then that brother kicks the bucket and suddenly you have all these nephews vying for power, whose claim is stronger. The original king's son, the current king's son. It was like a never-ending power struggle right within the ruling family.
And of course, when the top is unstable, the whole kingdom feels it.
Exactly. It's not just palace whispers. This led to full-blown rebellions, capitals being moved all over the place. Can you imagine the chaos? An entire kingdom constantly on the move. And this wasn't a brief period of unrest. We're talking about 9 generations.
9 generations. They were in turmoil for almost a century. Wow. You know, it really makes you appreciate how these internal divisions, even within a powerful family, can weaken even the mightiest of empires.
You hit the nail on the head.
So how did they finally break free from this chaos?
Well, it took a leader with, shall we say, a bit of backbone. They needed someone with a vision for a stronger, unified kingdom. And that leader, my friend, was King Pangang.
King Pangang, tell us more.
This guy was no nonsense. He realized that this whole moving the capital every other week situation, not exactly a recipe for success. He knew they needed a firm foundation, a place to call home.
Right, like trying to build a house on shifting sand. You need something solid to build upon.
Exactly. So Pangang, he picks the city of Yin, modern-day Anyang, as his permanent capital. Boom, power move.
Now, in ancient China, a fixed capital wasn't just about geography. It was a statement.
Oh, absolutely. It was about projecting strength, centralizing the administration, creating a sense of unity, of permanence.
But I imagine not everyone was thrilled about picking up their lives and moving on the king's command.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be the one to tell those nobles to pack their bags. Imagine you're a noble in the Shang Dynasty. You've just settled in, maybe built yourself a nice estate, and suddenly it's, sorry, we're moving again. Talk about a logistical nightmare.
I can only imagine the complaints. So what did Pangang do? Did he send out a strongly worded memo?
He took, let's say, a more direct approach. He called all his disgruntled nobles together and gave them a speech that would echo through the ages. Basically, he laid down the law. We can't keep running. We need to sacrifice personal comfort for the greater good. He told them, we're moving to Yin. End of story.
Talk about a leader who knew what he wanted.
No mincing words with Pangang. He understood that a permanent capital was essential, and he wasn't afraid to ruffle a few feathers to get it done.
And did it work?
It did. Now, whether they were won over by his vision or just realized that defying him was a terrible, terrible idea, they eventually agreed to the move. And it was a pivotal moment. With Yin as their solid foundation, the Shang Dynasty entered an era of stability and growth that would last for generations. It makes you think, though.
He does. Even with a strong leader like Pangang, was it solely his leadership that turned the tide? Or were there social and economic factors at play, too?
That, my friend, is the million-dollar question. History is rarely a simple equation, right? Yeah. It's this complex web of personalities, decisions, and plain old luck.
Absolutely.
And that brings us perfectly to our next chapter, a ruler who embodies both the incredible potential of this newfound stability and the looming shadows that threaten to unravel it all.
Speaking of remarkable rulers, that brings us right to King Ding, who reigned during what many consider the pinnacle of the Shang Dynasty.
Yeah.
What was it about his leadership that made this such a golden age?
Wu Ding, he's a fascinating figure. His reign, it really shows the power of experience and just the importance of understanding the people that you're ruling. His father, you see, was worried that Wu Ding, growing up in the palace, surrounded by luxury, wouldn't truly grasp the realities of life for everyday people. So get this, he sends him to live among farmers and hunters.
Wow. Talk about a crash course in empathy.
Right. Not your average royal upbringing. But this unconventional approach, it turned out to be one of the best things that could have happened to him. Wu Ding wasn't just reading about the lives of his people, he was living it. He learned about their struggles, their hopes, the impact of government policies. Firsthand experience gave him an understanding he could never have gained from inside the palace walls.
He essentially got an insider's view of his own kingdom. No advisor could pull the wool over his eyes. But it wasn't just his life experience that set him apart, right? He also had a real talent for spotting potential, no matter where it came from. And that leads us to the incredible story of Fu Yue, right?
Oh, Fu Yue. Now, there's a story for you. He was a slave, worked as builder, but people whispered, that his mind, it was sharper than any nobleman's. This guy had a natural talent for strategy, for wisdom that you just couldn't ignore. And Wu Ding, he hears these whispers, and he knows he needs someone like Fu Yue by his side.
But how do you elevate a slave to the position of most trusted advisor? That must have gone over well with the court elites.
Oh, it caused quite a stir. It was a bold move, though, and it showed Wu Ding's cunning, his understanding of power. He decided to stage, get this, a 3-year retirement.
He just walked away from being king for 3 years.
Well, not literally walked away, but he stepped back from his royal duties, stopped attending court, basically put the government on pause. You can imagine the scene. The most powerful man in the kingdom suddenly goes off the grid. Everyone's worried, of course. They're begging him to come back, but he's like, nope, I had a divine dream.
A divine dream.
Oh, yeah. He claimed the gods had shown him a wise man destined to be his advisor, see? And guess what? The description just happened to match Fu Yue perfectly.
You've got to be kidding me. It was all a setup.
A brilliant, if unorthodox, PR stunt. He used this whole divine narrative to shake things up and install the person he knew was right for the job.
That's incredible. So Fu Yue is discovered, as if by fate, brought before Wu Ding.
And Wu Ding, with a knowing smile, I imagine, ends his retirement, and they begin their partnership. Together, they ushered in a period of peace and prosperity. Just goes to show, sometimes the most unexpected choices lead to the greatest successes.
It's an amazing story. It reminds us to look beyond social status and recognize talent, wherever it exists. But Wu Ding's reign, it wasn't just about him, was it? We have to talk about his queen, Fu Hao, a woman who commanded armies, played a central role in governing the kingdom. Now that's the kind of representation we love to see in ancient history.
Fu Hao, now, there was a woman ahead of her time. Her tomb, by the way, was discovered in remarkably good condition. It's a treasure trove of information about the Shang Dynasty.
Oh, I bet. And what kinds of treasures did they find?
Well, among other things, and this is fascinating, they found Hechen jade.
Okay, so why is finding fancy jade in a queen's tomb a big deal?
Yeah.
Was it like unearthing a crown studded with diamonds?
It's even more significant than that. Hechen jade, you see, wasn't just any precious stone. It was a symbol of wealth, of status. And more importantly, it was only found in a region thousands of miles away from Yin, in what we now know as Xinjiang, near the border of modern-day China. Finding it in her tomb, it tells us that the Shang Dynasty had trade networks stretching across incredible distances.
Wow. We're talking about journeys that would have taken months, treacherous conditions, all to bring back these luxury goods. It speaks to the dynasty's reach, their influence during this time. So we have Wu Ding, a king who rose from humble beginnings to lead with wisdom and compassion, and Fu Hao, a queen who commanded armies and helped govern a kingdom. It seems like the Shang Dynasty at this point couldn't be more successful. What could possibly go wrong?
That is the question that has plagued empires throughout time, isn't it? And unfortunately for the Shang, the seeds of their decline, they were already being sown, even at the height of their power.
It's true that even at the top, the potential for things to go south is always there. So what were some of those factors that started to chip away at the Shang's success?
Well, it's interesting some of the seeds of decline were sown during their expansion under Wu Ding. All those military campaigns, sure, they secured the Shang's dominance, but they came at a cost.
It's that classic thing, winning the battle, but maybe not the war, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Constant warfare, even when you're victorious, it takes a toll. It drains resources, the people get weary, and sometimes a ruler can get so focused on conquest that they lose sight of, wise governance. And let's just say the rulers who followed Wu Ding, not quite cut from the same cloth.
Tough act to follow. Did they lack his vision, or were there other things going on?
Probably a bit of both. We see a pattern of weaker kings, more interested in palace life than, the hard work of ruling. And speaking of palace life, remember those bronze vessels we talked about?
Oh yeah, those luxurious things.
Well, the elite's fondness for those vessels might have had some, shall we say, unintended consequences. Seems they might have fallen victim to lead poisoning from those very vessels.
No way. Seriously. From the bronze.
It's a theory, but it makes sense, right? Lead poisoning, it can impact your health, your judgment, and when you're the ruler, those bad decisions, they impact everyone.
Talk about a harsh wake-up call. All that luxury leading to, well, not so great leadership. Which brings us to King Zhou, the last of the Shang rulers. His name is practically synonymous with the dynasty's downfall, isn't it?
He's definitely got a reputation. But it's interesting, King Zhou wasn't always seen as a tyrant. Initially, he was known for his intelligence, his strength. Legend has it he could pull 9 oxen by himself.
9 oxen. Okay, that's impressive.
Right. But as we often see with rulers, power can be intoxicating. And he eventually, he fell prey to its temptations. He surrounded himself with yes-men, indulged in extravagant excess, and his rule, it became increasingly brutal.
And that's where the infamous Deji enters the picture.
Right, Aji. Yeah. Her story is, it's like a cautionary tale. She was given to King Zhou as a gift, a peace offering. Imagine that. This young woman, offered to an aging king.
I bet she was thrilled.
Yeah, I doubt it. But she was intelligent, ambitious. She used her wit, her beauty to gain influence over him. And King Zhou, he became increasingly detached from reality, from sound counsel.
And that's when things really start to unravel. The extravagance, the cruelty, a kingdom on the brink that's all King Zhou and Deji.
It's important to remember, historical accounts, they can be embellished for dramatic effect.
Right, a little storytelling license.
Exactly. But even taking that into account, the stories of their reign, they're pretty remarkable. The star-picking tower, for example.
A star-picking tower?
Yeah.
What was that, like some kind of ancient skyscraper?
Basically. A tower so high it seemed to touch the stars. It showed their ambition, but also their extravagance, their disregard for the people. And then there's that infamous wine pool and meat forest.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that. A lake of wine, trees laden with roasted meat. It's almost impossible to imagine.
Right. It suggests a level of decadence, a disconnect from reality that's hard to grasp. But these weren't just parties. They were symptoms of a court that had lost its way, a king consumed by his own desires.
And Deji's cruelty. Those stories are chilling. But did anyone try to reason with King Zhou to show him the path he was on?
There were brave souls who spoke truth to power. King Zhu's own brother, Weisi, tried to warn him, show him how his actions were putting the whole dynasty at risk.
And how did that go over?
About as well as you'd expect. King Zhou, blinded by pride, influenced by Daji, refused to listen. His cousin, Kezi, his uncle, Bigon, they met similar fates. Their pleas for reason completely ignored.
Speaking of Bigon, his story is tragic. He knew the risks and spoke out anyway. Talk about integrity.
He became a symbol, of the dangers of unchecked power. The story of his execution, his heart cut out on Deji's orders, it's chilling. Shows how easily a kingdom can fall into chaos when the ruler won't listen to reason.
So what was the final straw? How did this once mighty dynasty finally meet its end?
They'd been weakening from within for so long, internal struggles, blinded by excess, ignoring wise counsel. The Shang, they became vulnerable, and a smaller state, the Zhou, they saw an opportunity and seized it.
The rest, as they say, is history. It really goes to show that no empire, no matter how powerful, is invincible.
It's a story that's played out again and again throughout history, isn't it? The cyclical nature of power, the allure, the danger of excess, and how important it is to listen to wise counsel, even when it's hard.
It's been quite a journey. Larger-than-life characters, political intrigue, the fall of a civilization, definitely gives us a lot to think about. What if King Zhou had listened to his brother, to his advisors? Could things have been different for the Shang Dynasty?
That's the question, isn't it? History, it's not just dates and names. It's a story made up of choices and consequences. And it's a story that never really ends, does it?
That's so true. Well, deep divers, we hope you've enjoyed this incredible journey back in time to ancient China. We've explored the rise and fall of the Shang Dynasty, those powerful figures, those cautionary tales, and hopefully come away with a deeper understanding of how the past still speaks to us today. Until next time, keep exploring.